going to briefly introduce you to my research on probiotic yogurt and how we can implement it here in London, Ontario. But I would quickly like to take a very short trip across the Atlantic Ocean. So we're going to head to Africa, where this initiative originally started with Western Heads Ease. So here, a series of community-based probiotic kitchens have already been implemented, and some of which were not successful, but most of which were successful, and they currently sell probiotic yogurt to the community. Some of the nutritional benefits we've seen is a reduction of infectious disease. We've seen improvement on malnutrition rates, as well as reduction in the duration of diarrhea, which is a major health concern, one of the ones that we were targeting here, as well as some research is being done on its effect on AIDS specifically as an infectious disease, but that research is a little bit controversial. There's some successes and not all of them. On top of the nutritional aspects that we saw here, we were also introducing an economic project here in Africa. The economic benefits were seen at the local level because we employed local individuals. Specifically, in most of these regions, we focused on employing women as a chance to help bring up the women's role in the social and economic scene in Africa, as well as we used local resources. So we were working with local farmers for our milk, and therefore contributing to the community in that sense. Bringing it back to Western and the Boston Health Research Institute, we also saw improvements here in the scientific study of probiotics through these studies. So we saw a lot of different aspects, and we were able to explore the effect of the gut microbiome on human health. But of course, none of these benefits have to stay in Africa. And that was where I was introduced to the project. And then essentially, I called it Western Heads Home. Let's come back to London, Ontario, and do the same thing we saw in Africa in London. So it was actually Jason's work that inspired, oh, these slides are different than mine, that's okay. That inspired Dr. Reed's first initiative when he looked at these maps and he noticed that the same nutritional needs, or different nutritional needs, but nutritional needs nonetheless, that we saw in Africa, we were also seeing here in London, specifically with our youth population. So these slides just introducing the whole concept of food deserts, which we were already introduced to. So let's talk about probiotics, give you a couple key facts about what they do to the human body. So essentially in our yogurt, we are introducing the good bacteria. As the media has called it, a lot of celebrities are starting to introduce probiotics into their diet. So it's the good bacteria, it's the microbiome of your gut that will help you in a lot of different aspects in your health, some of which are on here that we can see with the reduction of diarrhea. It's often used in the hospital setting for that purpose. But also some key words that were also mentioned earlier in terms of obesity and type 2 diabetes. So a couple of the studies I'll just quickly mention that we looked at. So cholesterol levels, obviously a factor in type 2 diabetes, a big problem here in London as well as many other Canadian and American cities. It was a simple study, randomized, double-blind, individuals taking probiotic yogurt versus individuals just taking normal yogurt. Cholesterol levels were significantly lower when you took a probiotic yogurt. Further, in a mouse study, it was interesting. They introduced mice to a Western diet. This is high sodium, high trans fat. They basically gave these mice McDonald's. And then they took them and they gave one a healthy gut microbiome and one was sterile, so it had no bacteria in its gut. The mice that had no bacteria gained weight. The mice that had a healthy gut microbiome, despite being fed the same high sodium and high trans fat foods, did not gain as much weight, to the point where they were almost equal to the control that was just a normal healthy mouse. So that was very interesting that probiotics could be so important as some of the issues facing us right here in London. Further, we have to look at the yogurt itself. So yogurt is just as beneficial as the probiotics, some might say. In one study done, it ended in 2011, they took hundreds of American adults and they just asked them all sorts of questions throughout their lives. And they saw things like smoking led to poor health, eventually, in later life. What they didn't realize and didn't expect was that yogurt, as a single food product, actually decreased levels of chronic health concerns like obesity and type 2 diabetes. Yogurt, not probiotic yogurt, just the yogurt itself. So our thought is by combining yogurt and probiotic yogurt, we can see the benefits of both. And as I said, these benefits were seen in Africa, just not as much here in Canada. So where does my project really come in? I'm going to jump through slides, I apologize. So my project comes in with bringing the benefits home. Let's do the same thing we did in Africa here. So I focused on 4 main benefits for the community. I looked at, could we provide a nutritional benefit? As I just presented, we can. We can reduce obesity and type 2 diabetes. Can we provide economic growth, like we saw in Africa, to the community that needs it most? Can we educate? And can we do scientific research? And I'll come back to the last 2 at the end of my presentation. So economic growth. So we were looking at introducing this probiotic yogurt in a food desert community as an opportunity to improve the nutritional side and the socioeconomic side of the community. So my project was to go out into the community and investigate how much this would cost and how much we could benefit from it. So this graph quickly, number 1, is just if we were to go out on our own today, purchase a storefront, let's make some yogurt. It's going to cost us quite a bit of money and a lot more than we saw in Africa because costs here are much higher. The other 2 options, 2 and 3, are local organizations that I've partnered with and that are ready to get started whenever we are, that are willing to introduce probiotics to their menus. So number 2 is the Hamilton Road Food Coalition, which is a group of individuals that are looking to create their own sort of food hub with all sorts of different projects. And then number 3, you might know as the You Made It Cafe run by Youth Opportunities Unlimited. I will also add that I purposely have not agreed to any of these, despite the fact that the You Made It Cafe is, according to my calculations, economically the most feasible, and they are on board to start today. I haven't said yes until after this conference, so if anyone wants to come and talk to me about some of their connections, I'm open for many ideas. Further, we are looking to do the same thing we did with the mamas here in the community. So in Africa, we focused on really teaching the mamas basic business sense, basic nutrition, as well as just a skill. Making probiotic yogurt is a skill. It's not that hard, as the person who taught me here is actually in the audience. It's not that difficult to make probiotic yogurt, but it's still a skill that we can teach individuals. So we're looking to bring that here, and one of the target groups that we're looking at is youth. And there are organizations out there that we can partner with that can bring youth to us so that we can teach them these business skills and the teaching of probiotic yogurt. And the best part is, we've already trained student interns at Western to teach it. Western has their interns and they have their resource manuals already made. We would just have to adjust a few things like adding the fact that yes, we have access to electricity, which in some of the manuals it says they don't. We would just have to add little things like that, but in general, the framework for teaching is already there. So that moves me to the other 2 aspects of this project, the educational side and the scientific side. I'm going to skip to the scientific side just quickly. So there has been studies on the effects of probiotics, as I mentioned at the beginning. I named a few. But there is a lack for these studies to convince the academic field that probiotics are just as helpful as some of the other options. The Canadian Food Guide does not recognize fermented food as a food group. And we would like to see that change, and all they said is bring us the evidence. So that's what we're going to try and do. So we're going to take these opportunities, take these kitchens, and use them for long-term studies. We want to start at youth and see if probiotics can affect a Canadian population for a long time, as well as can they actually reduce obesity and type 2 diabetes levels. We would be doing this with double-blind randomized studies, in which we would do a probiotic yogurt and a non-probiotic yogurt placebo effect, and see if we can actually create studies to prove that probiotics do play a part in decreasing type 2 diabetes and obesity levels, and therefore allowing our pharmacists or our doctors to introduce them and give them to patients. Second point here, which is actually the first point on the slide, again I apologize, is education. In our kitchens in Africa, we took the approach of let's implement and step back. We really wanted to make them run on their own. We go back, we check quality control, we ensure that everything works, but in general we partner with local organizations so that we don't have to troubleshoot areas there. We'll run our scientific studies, but we won't necessarily continue to teach. We won't teach the new employees how to make probiotic yogurt. That would be done in-country by local residents, therefore encouraging local growth economically. Here in London, we want to get a little bit more hands-on in terms of educational, by using this site as an opportunity to educate the public, as well as educate our Western students. So did she run away? Gina was here from the Student Success Center, but I was interested in using maybe some of our opportunities for integrated learning and volunteer learning in an organization like this with some of our health promotion students, etc., and getting them involved in bringing up this project. as well as getting the community initiatives involved. When I went out to the community, the most startling thing I found was the amount of initiatives already in place. I went thinking I had this brand new idea of let's introduce health and proper living to the community, and they're going to be so excited because it's new, and I realized, no, I'm one of thousands. But the problem is a lot of them don't get together, so we want to really create a hub where everyone can get together and share. So that was one of our other main goals, and something we're hoping to achieve through either alternative or, again, a future alternative we come up with. So what happens now? The first step is we're going to select a site, and we're going to start analyzing the market even further. We haven't looked at the price of the yogurt or how much yogurt we would have to make at each site. Those are the two next steps on the survey that we're just going to have to deliver in the second that we know what site we want to do. So that way we can implement it in a more cost-effective manner. But the last little bit of this slide is where I get excited. It's the innovation part of the project, and that's what we do after this. What can we do here in Canada different than Africa? Can we explore new opportunities for scientific research? Absolutely, I already mentioned a few. Can we explore new ideas? Maybe a new product. Strawberry-flavored probiotic yogurt is yummy, but it's one product. Let's expand. Let's see what other dairy-fermented foods we can use to help vector probiotics. Or is there another business model, another teaching programs that we can use? We're going to have to teach making a mother culture. That means we're going to teach microbiology to the average person out in the community. How can we do that effectively? These are opportunities we want to explore. And further, we want to expand. We went to Africa. We're going to come back, but that doesn't mean we have to stop here. This isn't a complete circle. We want to keep expanding. And thank you to everyone who contributed. A brief summary, but thank you so much.